Welcome to House of Horns. We have made it to week 10. Victor, I'm going to speak very slowly and calmly because before we get to the game, there's a lot going on. I get it, listeners and viewers of House of Horns, but let's practice some breathing exercises. Victor, by the way, I'll introduce you properly later, but do you have any breathing exercise that you could share for the people? Because there's a lot going on around the Rams. No quarterback, maybe. We'll get to it. There's so much to talk about. The crushing loss in Tampa Bay. Tom Brady gets 40,000 chances to win that game. Again, breathe. Can we get some exercises? Do you recommend something for the people here to relax week 10, Victor?
I'm not much of a yoga person, so the only time I get to breathe is whenever they tell me at the doctors and I go get a physical and they tell me to breathe in and breathe out.
With,
Yeah,
with, the, with the
exactly.
cold little thing that they put on your body, whatever that thing is called.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Well, Victor, you're Victor Javier Corona. Got to give you a proper introduction. Victor, the producer, Victor Javier Corona. I'm gonna say it again. And also, how about they follow you too? We gotta give you a shout out, VJ,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Uh,
Victor J Corona on Twitter. You can pretty much find me anywhere with that tagline,
There you
whether
go.
it's on Instagram or actually don't have a TikTok, but yeah.
Yeah, and give Victor a follow because he knows his stuff, but he's a calm guy, and I think we need people to be calm. I'm not as calm, but as you know, people know me. I think, hopefully, Gilbert Manzano, Rams beat reporter for the OC Register, LA Daily News. But yes, I kind of want to have some calm air, some positive vibes to start the show here. But yes, the Rams are still playing games. It's not the end of the world. Rams are 3-5. They're playing the Arizona Cardinals round two. They're 3-6, worse off. Cliff and Kyler, they're having some issues, but so is Sean McVay and the gang over here. And yeah, I can't beat around the bush. Matthew Stafford entered the concussion protocol. His playing status is in doubt. We don't know if he's going to play or not. We'll see. But we'll get to that. We'll give the Matthew Stafford storyline uh, plenty of, I guess, attention coming soon. But before that, because there's a lot of other issues to get to, Victor, I want to encourage people to engage in this video here. Leave a comment. One, you could, give us your favorite breathing exercises if you want in the comments. And
Yeah.
two, I'm gonna set you up here, Victor. The big question I feel like for people to comment is who should be the Rams lead back? Daryl Henderson, Cam Akers, Ronnie Rivers, Malcolm Brown, or fifth option, Kyron Williams, the rookie. So to start this video, before we get into the full game preview here, leave a comment, take your time, and pick a lead running back for the Rams because it's just been a revolving door week after week.
Well, I'll leave it for the fans to give us their opinion on it. I rather get their feedback. I think we can kind of talk about it as we get into the show. That way, we don't they don't have to go out and be like, oh well, he already gave the answer. So but I just wanted to make sure that people got out there. Please give us your comments. We really appreciate it. Your feedback is something that we look forward to. But on the show today, we got a lot of good stuff for you. I know it's kind of gloomy. I know it's kind of turning into a soap opera with the Rams. It seems like every time Gilbert goes and covers them for practice, something he comes back with a big notebook, which is a good segue because we're gonna talk about news and notes. He's gonna open up his notebook and talk about what all the things he's got on that notebook from today. As we record on a Wednesday night, we have your Rams versus Cardinals storylines where Gilbert will get into some storylines for the Rams. I'll get into some of the storylines for the Cardinals. We also have your player matchups to watch, your keys to the game, and then one of our new favorite things to do, as we talked about, we want that feedback. We have our mailbag, our House of Horns mailbag, where we are gonna to answer a couple of mailbag questions from you guys, which is really awesome. And honestly, it's been really cool to see. We're up to what, 357 subscribers now,
Yeah,
Gilbert.
yeah.
So that's awesome to see. Like, we've had like our best feedback in terms of the post game show. So that was also another cool thing to see. And then lastly, we'll give our game predictions. So yeah, Gilbert, we have a jam-packed show. So why don't you get us started? What do you have for news and notes for us?
Victor, one more thing to
Oh,
promote.
yes.
Jose Miguel
Thank you.
Romero, Arizona Republic Cardinals beat reporter, jumped again on House of Horns. Stop by. So check out that video. You want a point of view from the Cardinals side, how also maybe you want to feel better because over there in Arizona it's much worse than here with the Rams. So you want to feel better and see what's going on over there. That I don't know what to call it. That scenario situation with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, Steve Kime, Victor. You were stirring the pot there. It was like a novella conversation with Jose M. Romero, Cardinals beat reporter. He does a great job. So you want to watch that video here at House of Horns on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We spent 20 minutes just talking to Jose, and he's a compa. He's a triple OG, one of the best. So just watch it for the fun, banter, the conversations. We even ask him about like when is the right time to play Christmas music. So check out that video on House of Horns because Victor, you were really trying to stir the pot.
Yeah, no. And by the way, as you can see, I don't have a Christmas tree yet. So Megan decided not to put up a Christmas tree yet. So you're in luck, Gilbert. You won't have to deal with it yet. Maybe next week we'll find out. Stay tuned for that. So there we
Okay,
go. Uh,
take your time. The Christmas trees can wait until Thanksgiving. Uh, but Victor, I appreciate you being patient with that, with my Grinch ways. But we got to be positive here because people need stuff.
yes.
And I'll start news and notes with some, maybe some good news for people. Coleman Shelton, one of the starting interior linemen who started the season playing right guard and then had to move to center when Brian Allen was out. It sounds like it's very positive news for Coleman Shelton. He's been on IR the last 4 games with a high ankle sprain, and he was designated to return from IR Wednesday. And talking to Sean McVay today, it wasn't just all Matthew Stafford stuff. We asked him about Coleman Shelton, and he has some good things to say about it. Like, it sounds like he might be ready to play. Now, the question is he going to play left guard or right guard? Because people are not happy with Bobby Evans. I was going to say Bobby Brown. That's a defensive player. Bobby Evans, that because let's be real, Vita Vea and those boys in the interior of the Buccaneers really ate them up. So we'll see if Coleman, because Coleman plays. If Coleman Shelton plays, that's big because then you have Brian Allen and Rob Havenstein. That's 3 out of 5 starters there. And then the other one, it seems like finally Kyron Williams, a rookie running back, is going to be available because the 21-day window to activate him is about to expire. And I rarely see it when somebody gets like the designated to return window and not get activated. Like, that rarely happens. So I think this would be the week he goes. And I think Sean McVay even hinted like, yeah, we're running out of time, so you gotta use this guy, Kyron Williams. So you got him stashed in your fantasy roster for Kyron Williams. I will stay away from this committee here, but it sounds like Kyron's ready to go. And then uh, before I get to the bigger news here, it's really stood out to me. People are wondering today, which is Wednesday, here when we're recording, there wasn't like a real practice. It was just a jog through. It wasn't even a walkthrough. It was a jog through, whatever the heck that means. So don't really pay attention to the injury report for the Wednesday portion because it was just a jog through. So start when you're looking at it, check it out for Thursday. And then moving on for the final news and notes segment here. This one's I was very interested, but not too surprised. Terrell Burgess, the safety for the Rams, who was a 2020 third round pick, was waived. Maybe he comes back after we record this on Thursday. Like, he went through the whole 24 hours today. He might be ready, but I think there's a coach with the Chargers, Brandon Staley, who might want Terrell Burgess. And the story with Burgess is like Staley wanted him to be one of his best, secondaries, kind of like an inside-outside guy, which is interesting because he's a safety. Tried him a corner, tried him a safety. Terrell Burgess never really found the rhythm or his footing, and it didn't help that Staley went to the Chargers, and he kind of fell out of the picture with Raheem Morris. So since I've been covering this Rams team, I haven't seen much of Terrell Burgess. Yeah, he kind of helped out when there were some injuries there, but Even then, he didn't make the most of his opportunities. I'm not too surprised about Burgess, but he was a third round pick. And then Kento Blanton got waived for the second time this summer. The funny thing, Vic, when I walked into this beat, all I heard about was the three tight ends: Tyler Higbee, Bryson Hopkins, Kendall Blanton, and the only one doing anything is Tyler Higbee. And it's just a little strange to me. I'll end it here. Is that Kendall Blanton is their best blocking tight end? I wouldn't say by far, but he's a good one. He just doesn't give you too much in the passing game. And I was very surprised that Staley, I'm confused, wrong beat. Sean McVay didn't use Blanton more. Like I know Higbee gets all the targets and he really wants that element there. Then Bryson Hopkins came back and he became the number 2 tight end. Have we seen anything from Bryson Hopkins? Has he had enough snaps to even do anything? It's just a really strange scenario where McVay just wants to play one guy. And I don't know, Vic, give me your feedback on these news and notes here.
Well, the one that stood out was Blanton and of course Burgess. Like because we kind of run with the Chargers beat. I kind of saw a lot of the in terms of the headlines or the trending things was about Burgess and about Staley and how he fits his system, which was kind of weird. And then I mean it kind of makes sense at the same place because you have a coach who drafted him, who you think would end up with him, and then you go back to Raheem Morris here. When you come in as a defensive coordinator, you're gonna want people who fit your system, and it sounds like Burgess didn't fit his system, so he was kind of left out of of this team on defensively. So it makes a lot of sense in terms of that. The Blanton one was a little surprising, especially when we've been asking for them to run the ball, and of course they don't value, it sounds like, blocking tight end. So there you go. I mean, it sounds like McVay has made his how he's gonna want to run things, and I guess everybody has to get used to it, because it's his way or the highway.
Yeah, and I understand you got to create 2 roster spots because of Coleman Shelton and Kyron Williams returning, but yeah, I think you can find ways to have Kendall Blanton help you out. But on that note, Victor, let's move to the Rams storyline. We can't bury the lead here. Uh, yes, Matthew Stafford is in the concussion protocol. Again, a reminder: we're recording this on Wednesday, so I think we're gonna know like a lot more, I should say, about how serious is this for Stafford, because on Wednesday it was a very confusing presser with Sean McVay. He didn't want to say did he have a concussion or not. Like he was never flat out and saying like yeah he has one or like no we're still checking it out. Like he just didn't want to say that, and it was like us the reporters had to ask in various ways, did he get one? And if so, did he get it in the Buccaneers game? Did you have any indication that he got a concussion in the game? Did you see symptoms? Kind of like I think he was afraid of us asking, well, if you notice he got a concussion in the game, why was he in the game? Kind of thing. So I think they were trying to toe the line there, and they were just trying to play it safe. So be careful when you're talking to your friends or whatever. The thing, all we know right now on Wednesday is Matthew Stafford is in the protocol. We don't know if he has a concussion or not. And the other part of it that Sean McVay was trying to say, it could be kind of like a gamesmanship here to throw off the Cardinals, but it's like I wouldn't rule out Stafford. He might play. There's a chance, and it kind of makes people believe like he's gonna play. But then at the
Right.
same time, he's like, yeah, we gotta think about the human element. He has a great family. We can't rush this guy back. And I'm like, so which one is he close or you're not gonna rush him back? So it's very confusing, with this whole Matthew Stafford part. And I'll just give my 2 cents before I hear your side because it's very confusing, like everything about it. But nowadays and lately, you should always play it safe when it comes to concussions or potential concussions. So I would be surprised if he plays this week, especially after what happened with the Tua Miami fiasco. Why are you going to rush guys back? And I think his wife was also, had like a post saying she's very
Yeah.
concerned about it, and as she should be. This is a
Yeah.
serious thing. So it's weird that he's trying to mix, hey, he might play this week to like, hey, we're going to be very cautious. Which one is it? But I think it might be the cautious side.
Yeah, and what part of the problem with McVay this year has been his way of explaining things has gotten him in trouble a couple of times. I know you've talked about it, about how he's used some of the terms and then he's kind of gone back on them. part of the problem here is, and I think he was trying to save face with the NFL, and you don't, the one thing you don't want to do is piss off, you know, the shield, as they call it. You have to protect the shield. And when it comes to, concussions, especially if he's going into protocol, people are going to be asking, well, how did you guys miss the concussion? Is that what happened? And so you're kind of towing a fine line there. So he has to be careful with that too. And this is where I think having like a general manager or something come out and kind of talk about it instead of leaving it up to your coach, where he's like, I'm not a, like, as I heard today, Josh McDaniels talk about, he said, I'm not a doctor. And I keep hearing coaches say, I'm not a doctor. And this is why, because you're having to answer questions about health concerns and concussions where you shouldn't be the one having to be the one explaining them. And I think this is where you have to have someone else do that. Either have your neurological person be the one who talks, or at least let the coaches like McVay, just say, hey, I'm sorry, this is something I can't answer because I'm not a doctor. I'll give you the information and what they've told us, and that's all I can really say.
Yeah, that reminds me, Victor, because I had a short stint covering baseball in spring training, and one thing that I was so surprised about, that they actually let the head trainer speak to reporters about injuries now. I think that thing is it's new in baseball. It might get to a point where football should try that. Just have the head trainer talk to the reporters real quick before the coach comes in. Like, okay, here's the injuries. Boom, boom, boom. Move on. Like, especially the serious ones. With like we don't want to speculate here. Like I'm getting off topic here, Victor, but I get countless emails from doctors saying, "Hey, I'll talk to you about this injury," just to kind of get their name in the paper. But I'm like, you don't know. You're not in there with the X-rays. You don't know. So
Yeah.
people always trying to guess, and people try to get kind of like on Twitter and watch the video and break it down. Like we don't know. So I'm kind of going off topic there, Victor. But the other thing that was a little suspicious to me, a little weird, because I get it. It's a tricky subject. You don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to like say the wrong thing. But the thing that was so weird to me, Victor, and I had a feeling too, like usually Mondays on Zoom, Sean McVay starts his press conference saying, "Here are the injuries. Here's who might miss, who might, we're hesitant about. This is what happened from the game that you didn't ask me about," because he knows we're gonna ask, so he just wants to get it out the way. He didn't start that way this time, and then through the middle of the presser, because a lot of the questions were like, "Hey, like your offense stinks, man. Like we're going to ask you about that," and we'll get to that eventually. I feel like, right?
Yeah.
Your offense is broken, man.
Yeah.
But I think middle through the Zoom, like, "Hey, Sean, just to make sure, everybody okay? Like, is there any injuries you want to tell us about?" And oh, what a coincidence! He said, "Oh, I haven't spoke to Reggie Scott, the head trainer, just yet. I'm gonna talk to him after this. Usually, you talk to him before you talk to us." And it was very weird. And then, like in the press conference, he wasn't sure when Stafford got into the protocol. Was it Wednesday? Was it Tuesday? Like when was it? And supposedly it was Tuesday. Makes me believe he had an idea Monday, but I guess after he spoke to us. Whatever. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't dwell on it, but I think they're just trying to play it safe. Like they haven't had a practice. It happened in the game. Come on, let's keep it real with the Buccaneers. You can at least say that part, that it happened in the game. You don't have to say he got a concussion or not. We don't know. But if he did, there are rare occasions where a player comes back and plays that in a week. It's hard to see. And then when David Edwards, the left guard, sustained a concussion right after he came back. Remember the fiasco, Victor? He had a
Yep.
concussion against 49ers or something, or the week before that. He
Yep.
doesn't play. He comes back a week later, gets a second concussion, goes on IR. So these things you don't want to mess around with. Uh, I get it. They're 3-5. It feels like the end of the world. It's a critical game. You have to go. We hadn't even mentioned the backup was going to probably play. John Wolford. It's 3-5, but the Cardinals are 3-6, and Kyler Murray has a hamstring. You'll get into it. So it's gonna be a game of
Yeah.
backup. So just think about, like, hey, the future for Stafford. You got to keep him healthy. Think about that. You own the Cardinals too, and John Wolford could actually get the job done. And I'll go this way and segue. John Wolford's first career start was 2020 when the Rams needed to win to get into the postseason. John Wolford played the Arizona Cardinals that week. He got it done. And then the next week, he got a neck injury against the Seahawks in the wild card game, and Jared Goff came back. Remember that they picked Wolford over Goff. If that makes people
Yep.
feel better, they picked Wolford over Goff to play a playoff game. So yeah, he's not the most, I don't know, whatever, best quarterback, but he's not the worst backup. So there's a chance there. I don't know what you want to say about Wolford, Vic, but it's not the worst scenario to be in.
No, I wanted to go back a little bit. I'm not gonna take too long on the whole Stafford concussion thing. It's out of the Rams' hands. It's up to the NFL. Like they're gonna let that they make the decision on whether the neuro. I always get this wrong, but the doctors are gonna give the okay to the NFL whether he's able to play. And like you said, you have to keep it safe there. But in terms of Wolford, he's been good as a backup. He can get the job done. You shouldn't worry about that. And you're going up against the Cardinals. You're at home. It's kind of like we talked about with the 49ers in reverse here, where the Rams own the Cardinals in this situation. And as you talked about, uh, their quarterback now might not be playing. So, but let's get into the next topic in terms of storylines for
Yeah,
the Rams.
I'll try to pick up the pace here, but yeah, I actually want to say stuff about the Jalen Ramsey, taking shots at the offense, and what was a Pharaoh file, and I know it kind of became some news on Sports Center, and I was there. He spoke to me one on one, like I appreciated Jalen Ramsey, like I didn't want him to get away with not talking. He's a team captain, so one of the first people I approached in the locker room, I said, "Hey, Jalen, will you talk?" He said, "Not right now. Maybe come back." Uh, and he actually ended up talking, and especially because 2 days before that on Friday, he kept talking about like, yeah, I want to be the leader of this team. I want to be vocal. I want to do this and that. I'm like, okay, we got to show it here after a loss. He spoke. He took a one-on-one with a couple of reporters, video cameras. He said, hey, I remember you asked me. I'm gonna talk to you after the camera. So we spoke, and this is the sense that I got. And I'll say this too, because being in the locker room, I see extra like people in that locker room, the Rams, they don't care if Jalen Ramsey's outspoken. They don't care that he's taking shots. They don't care that he challenged people through the media. They know that's who he is. He's not being fake. That's his personality. He's fired up. He's a competitive guy. He's gonna look you in the eye and say, "Hey, you gotta make the plays." He doesn't care who you are. And like, I just heard the whispers of the players saying, like, "Yeah, tell him, Jalen." Like they want him to be that way. They like that kind of style of like, yeah, taking shots. And the way I see it is like he's holding people accountable. If people are okay with your style of that leadership, then go ahead and do it. So I think it was the other way around, and say Cooper Kupp was like, goes to jail, like, hey, dude, your defense sucks, man. Like, can you make a play for our offense? I think he'd be like, all right, as the kids say, bet, cool, yeah, I'll do it. I think that's the kind of the impression that they like, being held accountable. So I don't think it was like cheap shots. It was more like, hey man, like we shouldn't have been out in the field. Like we gave you a chance to, you could have just got a first down, killed the clock, something. You didn't do it, and they were keeping it real. Me as a reporter, I shouldn't complain like, oh, he's taking a shot here. I got some good quotes out of it. That's what I want. I want real stuff. So as long as the locker room is fine with it, and that's the sense that I get, and people are okay with him being this way, holding people accountable, not people not being sensitive to what he says, I have no problem with it. I think it's fair.
Yeah, and see, like me as someone who is in there, like to cover the team, I wouldn't know this. So it sounds like he was just taken out of context, and it's good to. This is why Gilbert, we have this show because he's here to give you that context that you're not gonna see in on Sports Center where they're trying to give you guys, clickbait stuff. But here you go, like Gilbert gave you the what's really going on in terms of the comments that Jalen Ramsey said, and I'm good with what he said. Like I have no problem with it. Like if that's how you feel and that's how the team wants you to be, then go for it, man. Like it'll make if it fires this team up and they can go on a run here because Jalen Ramsey is outspoken, then go ahead and do it. There shouldn't be a problem, especially if the players don't have a problem with it. Is the players on offense, I should say. So yeah, man.
Yeah.
Let's yeah,
Okay, sometimes it's okay to be pissed off, like you're sucking right now. Like it's okay. It shows you care.
yeah.
But yeah, this next topic, Victor, we could spend all day, so I'm gonna try to go through it. And I'll say the backstory because going through the rundown is, obviously, yeah, Sean McVay is struggling as a play caller, and then it said, I think I felt bad because I was like, hey, like you put is it time for Sean McVay to give up the playing calling? I'm like,
Mhm.
the guy won the Super Bowl last year.
Oh,
He's been a winning head coach for 5 years. It's a 6 year. Yeah, his offense stinks right now. He's not a good play caller this year, but his resume, his reputation, all the coaches around the NFL from his tree are doing well. Like this guy, when it comes to X's and O's, he knows what he's doing. Yeah, he's in a rut. He's struggling. I'm like, I'm not gonna feed this narrative here. But then Victor, you told me, you said you put it in the rundown because you heard Dan
Dan Orlovsky.
Orlovsky from
Yes.
ESPN saying, like, can you give me what's going on with the hot topics? I don't understand how the coach who won the Super Bowl should give with the play calling right now.
So I was watching NFL Live, right, and they were talking about the struggles of the offense with the Rams, and then he talked about some of the concepts that he's run this year in terms of the offense, and he's trying to run a lot of the same concepts that he did when he had Gurley and Jared Goff. And part of the problem is that you can't, and then a lot of the other concepts that he's seen in terms of the play calling is that he's trying to run a lot of the things from last year as well, with the when you don't have that personnel to be able to run those plays. And so he just said, he's like, well, is it time for McVay to give up the play calling duties to someone else? And then somebody brought, I guess there's one of the offensive coordinators there, or one of the coaches who's like next in line that people want to see. So that's where it kind of came from there, and so of course, people are going to make a big deal out of it, but as you pointed out, he is too good of a play caller, and he has the resume for you to take him out. Yes. Are we criticizing his play calling this year? Yes, because fairly so. Now, he's not gonna, especially with all the coaches he has around the league that he's, have gotten promoted because of him. You're not gonna take away, and he's facing one guy who he met, when he was at USC, who got a job with the Arizona. So it tells you the influence that he has. You're not going to lose his play calling. He's not going to give up those play callings. I just wanted to bring it up because I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, I think it's funny too, but I know some fans are also so frustrated about this year. Maybe some might agree. So we're encouraging people to comment about who should be the lead back for the Rams. Also comment, what do you think about Sean McVay's play calling? Should he give it up? Should he not? Whatever. Go ahead. I just want people to talk. I think that one's kind of silly. And what was the other thing I was going to tell you, Victor? I felt like, but this is the last part I'll say here because we got to get to the Cardinal side. It feels like, yes, it's stubbornness in a way, but I think he mistimed it where he's like, okay, yeah, we got to make some tweaks, but not too much because my guys are going to get healthy. They're going to come back out of the bye week. We get through the Panthers, get healthy. Why am I going to switch everything up when it takes time to install a new scheme, blah, 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 which I think that kind of the excuse is an excuse because you see too many times in the NFL where like you make this crazy kind of adjustment and change and you win the game. Like it's not as hard as they're making it seem, whatever. But when they're getting guys like, Brian Allen back, Van Jefferson back, your DBs are getting healthy, Troy Hill, David Long, Kobe Durant, like you got a lot of bodies back. So I think it felt like, well, I should bring the defense about the offense, but you got Van Jefferson back, Brian Allen. You might get Coleman Shelton back. You got Cam Akers back. So you probably felt like, okay, let's try it. People are healthy, and then it's just like you can't keep doing things you did last year because reality sets in. You're looking in the mirror like, oh, we're still putting up 14 points. Maybe it's time. And to his credit, he said it in the press conference. But I think that's his thinking was like, my guys are here. They're healthy. Let's try it one more time. And it's maybe a little too late.
Yeah, maybe he falls under that whole, what is that? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over.
Cooper
Yeah,
Cup
and
like
maybe
saying that a
that's,
lot, by the way.
yeah. There you go. So, but I'll keep it brief in terms of the Cardinals and their storylines. Of course, the big news today was that Kyler Murray missed practice because of a hamstring, and of course, people started making jokes about Call of Duty, and I'm not gonna go there. It's too easy. So, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on him missing practice, and do you think he misses the game on Sunday?
yeah, first thing I laughed about was like they had a walkthrough, which is kind of standard for some teams, but then the Rams had a jog through. What the heck is a jog through? I don't know what a jog through is, Victor. But yeah, there was a walkthrough and a jog through, and so it's kind of hard to assess, is he really hurt? Did he really miss a like, it's kind of rare for a quarterback to get arrested unless you're Tom Brady and you're a veteran, not a young guy like Kyler Murray, because you got to be in the offense, especially when your offense is terrible and you're 3-6. You don't get arrested. You got to install and game plan and don't be on the sticks on. I'm doing the joke. Sorry, on the Xbox or the PlayStation. But then you see Ian Rappaport saying, "Hey, like," which is kind of a weird tweet, like, "Hey, like, it's something. It's not serious. Keep an eye on it." I'm like, are you just trying to tweet something just to report something? But
Yes.
it made me feel like I think it's like it might be serious. It might be something. So I think it's something to monitor. And I think I checked who's your backup, Colt McCoy, and I started thinking like Colt McCoy against John Wolford. I can't wait to watch this game.
Yeah, not a people are gonna tune into that one. I know they, you know how they're starting to flex in games. I don't think Rams Cardinals, if that's the case, would have been flexed in, but
Not an
I,
option.
not an option. But talking about maybe part of the reason that he pulled a hamstring too is that, I mean, he's got a really terrible relationship. It's at least from the outside, and then having talked to Jose Romero, to plug that
Yes,
interview,
yes.
as he talked about, there seems to be. I know you asked him about the relationship, and how that has worked, and some of the answers he gave us were pretty alarming in terms of from the outside, and it sounds like they're not on the same page, and it shows, honestly. Like, I was kind of doing some research in terms of how bad their offense has been this year. It ranks 16th in the league in points. They're averaging 22.6 points a game, which is, I mean,
Better
for
than the
this kind of,
Rams.
yeah, no, yes, they're doing better, but this is supposed to be an air raid offense,
Yeah.
and they're not doing that great. I mean, and then the other problem is that Kyler Murray leads the team in rushing. They're not running the ball as Jose mentioned to us. He has rushed for 359 yards this season, so that's not good. And then switching over to the defense in terms of the Cardinals, one of the things that I stood out from our interview with Jose as well was that he said that the defense was actually better this season than the offense. And so I kind of I went and I looked at some of the numbers, and if you look at the numbers, you're like, how is this possible? Because they're last in every category. They're last in uh points allowed,
Really?
they're 29th in yards allowed, and it has to do with the fact that this is the part of the problem with the air raid offense, is that you don't have long drives, and you either score really quickly, or when you're trying to, you don't run the ball, you're trying to pass the ball out on three downs. Guess what? Your defense is going to be on the field a lot longer. This was a problem that we saw when Chip Kelly came into the league,
Mm.
into the NFL, and that was a big criticism, was that his defense was always gas at the end of games because they were on the field too long. And that's the problem with them, is that, yes, it sounds like they're, as he said, they're better than the offense, but the problem is they're on the field too long. So that's one of the storylines to look at, as when watching this game, is the Rams have to take advantage of, the defense, how long they're on the field.
Yeah, now I think about it, Victor, I think they scored like 20 points maybe in that game. So I don't know if that means they took advantage, but 20 points nowadays for the Rams is actually pretty good. I think the only time they got over like 20 something points was that Falcons game in week 2. So it's been a struggle for this Rams offense. So maybe this could be the week they kind of do something. But then again, the quarterback Matthew Stafford might not play. So I think numbers for this game might be thrown aside. But I'm surprised that I was kind of glancing at the numbers too, and I'm surprised that Jose said that the defense has been better than the offense. But that's us looking on the outside. So I'm glad that he came in and dropped the knowledge. But those numbers aren't good.
No, they're not. And then lastly, like, one of the things that, like, I was, you know, getting ready for this preview was I noticed a tweet from Jose Romero, and he was talking about how Cliff Kingsbury and Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator, they watch film with the owner after game film, and I was just like, okay, so that I've never heard that before. It was interesting to see that tweet, and I'm just like, okay, so what happened? We even asked Jose about it. What do you guys think? Is his whether because they signed an extension before the season, the GM and and Cliff Kingsbury, so are their jobs in jeopardy? And it doesn't sound like there might be any changes, but who knows? I mean, if things continue this way at the end of the season, we might see changes in Arizona because you know people don't aren't patient nowadays, and who knows? Maybe bid will be, but as we've seen around the NFL, we've already seen two coaches get fired, so. That'll be something to keep an eye on is how that relationship sours between Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury down the end of the season, and whether they end up parting ways with either the GM or the head coach. So those are the storylines for the Cardinals.
Well, Vic, you set me up for the transition for player and matchups to watch. Yes, I know the segment is player matchups, but this is such a strange game where I'm like, I'm tired of speaking about the offensive line. Doesn't matter. They don't really have a pass rush in Arizona. I know JJ Watt's there, but he has the same dude. You took the one that's kind of good one, so I won't go there. And then like
Oh, go ahead
other,
if you
no,
want.
no, no, no. You're gonna have that. I'm just trying to make a point. Like it's kind of like a boring game for player matchups because I don't know. It's Cooper Cup against. I can't even name a DB because Buda Baker's hurt too. Like, he's a safety. I know that, but it's just like, all right, both these teams are struggling. And when they're struggling in many areas, who do you look to? The top, the coaches. So I'm gonna go Sean McVay against Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah, it is kind of a tongue
Oh,
twister. So McVay versus Cliff, and this kind of like there are different scenarios. Like Cliff is in the hot seat. Sean McVay has his number. He needs a good game, and he might have to do it with Cole McCoy or whoever their backup is. Like this is more like, do you want to save your job and show you're a creative play caller that you're actually one of these guys with like the McVay tree? Do it in this game. So it's a challenge to scheme up whatever you could do without Kyler. Or maybe Kyler is doing too much stuff that you don't like, and it's like, okay, now the guy who comes in will just follow my thing to a T. Do your game plan. Sean McVay's on a different side. He's more like his pride's hurt. He's eating a lot of humble pie. He has probably the worst offense in the NFL. The wonder kid or kin, I think I always get it wrong. The genius, the extraordinary Sean McVay with all the giant tree of coaching that's better than Bill Belichick's. I guess anybody's better than Bill Belichick coaching tree. But he finally looked in the mirror. He's looked defeated. His back's against the wall. What can he scheme up against a coach that he's always beating? And like, and I get it, this whole narrative, like, well, maybe the Cardinals will do. That's not what happened with the Rams and the 49ers. It's not about who's due. It's who owns you. So Sean McVay has to own the Cardinals and scheme up his awesome jet sweeps. He has some good ones in Arizona, by the way. Cam Akers had a great game in Arizona. Maybe this could be a game where they kind of get back together and they figure it out. But I just want to see what Cliff has because I feel like this is a game you got to show your best stuff, man. Like enough is enough and enough jokes about Kyler Murray in the video games and you watching film with your president or owner or whatever. That's kind of weird. You're right, Victor. So this matchup right here, the coaches, what can they do?
I like it. I like the fact that, we had the opposite of what we see with the 49ers and, Shanahan and McVay. I like the fact that, McVay has owned Kingsbury. I keep messing that up. But yeah, and that's a great point is maybe we see the same thing with the Cardinals and they come out he tries to change things around for himself. Maybe we see him try to run the ball, but it's going to be hard against that Rams defense. Just because that's where they've been good this year. I think maybe their better matchup would be for the the Rams going up against that defense, and Vance Joseph, see what he cooks up for them. But I like it, man. I like, instead of a player, especially because we don't know who the quarterbacks are going to be. That's why for me, like, switching over to what I went with, it was, and I it was Jalen Ramsey against DeAndre Hopkins. That's probably the sexiest matchup. Now, will we get it? Who knows? Because as I know, as Rams fans have complained, Raheem Morris doesn't allow him to do that because he'll play soft zone, and he'll move around. So whatever matchup we do end up getting between those two would be nice. As Jose Romero talked about, they might bracket him
Mhm.
kind of like what the Seahawks did, and take that away and just let Ramsey take care of one part of the field and move him around. But I would love to see them go one on one. But that's my player matchup, because other than that, we don't have that many options, as we talked about with we might not have both of the quarterbacks in this game. So as of we're recording right now, that's what we're gonna go with.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned what Jose Miguel Romero mentioned. Like, yeah, like the Seahawks, all they did was just like, oh, no, sorry, it was I'm blanking on the other side. That's for something later. But the Cardinals can't run the football, so all they did was just play too high shell and like you mentioned, brackets. And who does that really well? What's Raheem Morris love to do is play that kind of style. So if they have no fear about running the football,
Mhm.
then you okay there, Victor?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
And they have no fear running the football, then that's gonna be probably, it won't be a matchup of Ramsey versus Hopkins, but it can be a long day for Hopkins trying to break through all that coverage there. Uh, but yes, what do we have next, Victor?
Keys to the game.
Yes. Oh yeah. So for my notes, I just wrote get a damn running game. Right? Like you've been taking this one the last couple of weeks, Victor. So I'm gonna just take it because I am frustrated with this running game. Like I mentioned, comment who should be the lead back because I'm done with the committee. The committee approach is not working. Yes, I get the offensive line needs to block better. You need more plays, and I just keep hearing a bunch of excuses from like Sean McVay and like, yeah, when you get more plays, people get more touches. You're gonna really see the committee kind of flourish. No, 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 no. Like at some point, just like it's what was the stat that I saw? Oh, it was they've been held over under 70 rushing yards six
Yes.
times out of eight
Yes.
games. Like it's not a one-time thing where you don't have plays. I guess you don't have plays every single week because your offense is that bad. But 8 3 and outs, yes, that's really bad. I get it. But at some point, like Kirk Morrison said a couple weeks ago, stay committed to the running game. And maybe you just pick one. Victor, it's kind of an inside joke here because remember that there was a person that said who told this person who just to pick one girl. Like stop trying to dance with a bunch of girls. Pick one.
Yeah.
And so you, Sean McVay, just pick one. And I'll be fine if he picks two. You can't have
Yeah.
four running backs out there. Like if it's Daryl Henderson and Cam Akers, then give one, 15 to 18. The other one gets 10. I don't know because I don't know about Cam Akers, man. When you get 5 carries and you get 3 yards, oh man, that's bad. But I think Daryl Henderson should be the guy. And again, he's not the sexy guy. He won't give you the home runs. He won't give you the long gains. He won't give you like these nice cuts, good vision. But at least he'll give you 4 yards. And if you give him 20 carries, you're gonna look at the stat sheet and be like, oh, he got like 94 yards and maybe like a goal line touchdown. That's nice. That's better than anything you've done all year. So get a running game because the running game will help you in so many ways with this offense. So I'm just fed up here with this running game. Do something. This has been an eyesore all year.
For me, I'm going to keep it simple for you. I'm not going to go that long because you covered something that I've been talking about for almost 3 weeks now, 4 weeks. So mine is the Cardinals cannot they cannot match up against tight ends. So use Tyler Higbee here. Use the middle of the field. As Jose, once again, this is why we have B reporters from other teams, because they give us great insight. And he talked about, I asked him about a certain player for the Cardinals on defense, and he told us like, hey, they can defend tight ends, and so use crossing routes with Cooper Kupp, with Allen Robinson. This is the I'm predicting that either Allen Robinson or Tyler Higbee are going to have a big game, because the middle of the field is where you attack this team and you run the ball, as you talked about, run the ball and attack the middle of the field with either crossing routes or use your tight ends on tight end screens. So that's for me is the key. And then if you want to throw defense into the equation, like we talked about, bracket, use the same thing that the Seahawks did, because you know that the Cardinals can't run the ball. So bracket them, play that soft zone, which Rams fans are gonna hate, but hey, that's the way to beat them. Then use it. Go after their weakness.
I like that. I feel like a couple of weeks ago you kept saying like, "Oh, Tyler Higbee's gonna have a big game." Was it the first game of the Cardinals
Yeah,
against? Okay, there you go. So,
yeah.
yeah, no, if we see a lot of crossing routes there, then I'm like, oh, Victor, he knows what he's talking about.
I was gonna say, if he's available in your waiver wire, Tyler Higbee, go and pick him up, because, like I said, the Cardinals are terrible at defending tight ends, and usually in fantasy the tight end goes off that week. So if you see him on the waiver wire and you're in need of a tight end, go and pick him up.
Cool. What we got
All right.
next?
All right, we got our mailbag.
Yeah.
We got two questions this week. One is from Vladimir Sekovic, I want to say. I can see more changes coming in the offseason. Do you see some major trades or something on the O line? Who's a candidate for trade? Who gets cut or else?
Yeah, that's a lot. He's thinking about the offseason already, man. Like trying to go ahead. By the way, thank you for the comments, and like if you're seeing this on YouTube, there's a community section where I post comments, and I think I'm gonna start doing posts there. Obviously about the team, but also like, hey, for a mailbag section. So if it's hidden, go look for it on the community tab of House of Horns. To ask a question, we'll get a mailbag in there. So I know we're just starting, so we got a few this week, but I saw the question. I kind of glanced because it's one thing you got to think about and look ahead. And I'll try to give you an answer here, but I feel like it's hard for teams to give up on the offensive line. Like you don't really see a trade out there unless like a older veteran that gets waived, and you want to just take a flyer and see if they do well. Like I haven't got to the point where I'm thinking about that. Like when you rebuild a team, you usually start with the quarterback and then the trenches, and like you got to have your lineman, you got to have your pass rusher. So teams tend to hold on to those players. Like even like with Brian Burns, like I'm surprised the Cardinals didn't really take that deal, because you got to have somebody there to give you a pass rusher, but you got to also have your lineman too. So just to give you an answer, the one team that has really good linemen and I think they're about to be on the verge of rebuilding is the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know if you could get Quentin Nelson out there for a first round pick. You don't have a first round pick. I don't know. He's a really good player. He has a bad year this year, but they invested so much money in their old line. Somehow that backfired for them because they don't have any receivers, no quarterbacks, nothing. So maybe they're willing to sell. I don't know. And then what was the other part of it? Like he wanted some cuts, some trades.
Yeah,
Uh,
like who like do you see something coming? I mean, it's kind of early.
yeah,
And let me just jump in here real
go ahead.
quick and let me take, because it's something that we haven't talked about, and it just made me think about it. You know who has the cheapest O line in terms of salary in the league?
Do not.
It's the Rams.
Oh, cheap as wow.
Yeah, they
Well,
have it. They don't pay for their linemen. So this should tell you that the number one priority in the offseason,
actually,
and of course, think about this, Gilbert, is the fact that um they prioritize other positions. You had to pay Jalen Ramsey, you had to pay Aaron Donald, you had to pay Matthew Stafford, and so because of that, you've kind of have settled on paying, average salaries to some of these linemen, and so that's part of the problem. And I think either you built through the draft, and then you also lost the rookie out of Wisconsin in the preseason, who you were counting on to
yep.
kind of help you during the season. So he's coming back, and so you can go either now that you have your picks and you didn't trade them away. That's another way you can build your offensive line. And since you have a little bit of money, since you're not paying that much for the rest of your linemen, go and get yourself a free agent, a veteran to come in and help out, especially at left tackle. I feel like at left tackle, there you have to solidify your left tackle position, whether it's through the draft or through free agency. So there you go, Gilbert.
Cool. Thank you for that nugget. I
Yeah,
think about that is true
yeah.
because I think only Rob Havenstein has kind of a long-term security on that offensive line. So that's 4 out of 5 there. So and I think one more question, Victor, will be I think it's out actually offensive line, right?
Yeah,
Again.
and it's our Aaron Donald T-shirt winner,
Oh yeah.
Wild Man Samurai. He says, "How do the Rams retool the offensive line in the offseason?" And I kind of
Yeah.
cover that there. Yeah, so there you go.
We'll
I mean,
get
I
there.
think, yeah, we'll get there as we go through the season, but as I said, there's ways to do it through the draft. You have guys coming back, and then also in free agency, you can take care of it that way. And and the other thing too is that you have to keep in mind. I'll make this short. Is that the Rams have been one of the healthiest teams the last 5 years. This is the first year in the last 5 years where they've been hit by injuries, and they've even had other teams try and use some of their how they've been able to keep some of the players healthy by using some of the soccer evaluations and stuff like that and doctors. And so it happens, man. Eventually, you're going to be the one that gets hit with injuries. So hopefully, in the off season they can take care of that, and next season they'll be healthy. So there you go. So that was our mailbags, and then we're gonna go to our game predictions. But let me tell you, where the betting spotlight is at for this
Okay.
week. The Rams are 2-point favorites because I'm sure this line is going to change depending on how uh, Stafford status and Murray status goes later in the week. So just if just
Yeah.
keep an eye on the betting line. It might go up and down. The one thing I don't see changing is the over under. It's 41.5 because not either of this team, they don't score that many points. So I'm sure we're both probably going to go with the under, even if Stafford and Murray plays, because these teams, the Rams haven't scored 20 points since when? When was the? I don't even remember. So
It might be the
there
last time
you
I play the
go.
Cardinals, to be honest, man.
So with that, I'll give you the floor. What is your game prediction? Are we both finally going to pick the Rams to win a game in the same week?
Victor, you got me so interested in the last time they scored over 20 points. I'm checking real quick here. I think I am. Actually, no, I forgot about the Panthers game. They got 24 points there. That game seems so weird, so random. But yes, you said will be different this week, and I'm just gonna brag here, but I shouldn't. And you probably have the same record. I think you do. This is how easy these games have been to predict. I think we're both 6-2, right? Outright. And I
Pretty
think,
much.
and I'm 4-3-1 against the spread, which the spread makes it a little harder, but 6-2 outright. Um, yeah, it's tough to kind of predict this game without knowing if Kyler Murray is going to play and against John Wolford. But even if Kyler Murray plays against John Wolford, it could be Stafford. I don't know. My feeling is it probably will be Wolford. You're going to be cautious. I think they should. Uh, I think Wolford is good enough with McVay on his side. It sounds weird right now to say because he's been struggling so bad that man, it's gonna be tough. Well, he could get it done against Kyler Murray because also like, what if it is like a significant, not significant, but like a hamstring that really like holds you back, and he plays. The biggest element with Kyler Murray is the whole being mobile, running quarterback. He might not be able to do that. It doesn't hurt you. Now you play the brackets like you've been talking about, Vic, and the two shell. Like take it all away. All the plays down the field, that's gone. So be conservative. Maybe give Darrell Henderson 24 carries. I don't even know. Just something crazy. He's never had more than 13 carries this year, Victor, and that came in week 1. So it's been like below 10 like every single week. So get the running game going, help out Wolford, do some bootlegs. That's enough. And I say they win. You know what? I think they'll match it what they had in the first game, 20-13 against Cardinals. There we go.
Yeah, it's. I was in my head. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with 20-10 here, and I'm gonna pick the Rams here. And like as you talked about, I think one of the good cool elements that we might see in terms of John Wolfer is he can move around. He's a
Yes.
little bit more mobile, and so maybe we get him out of the pocket. You see McVay running some boots here and there, and who knows? Maybe you see some different style uh of plays there where that you can do with Stafford. So that'll be something to look forward to if it is him. But I just I number one, I don't see this going over 40 points. And then I see the Rams finally scoring 20 points, and it's yeah, I mean, it should be exciting in terms of scoring 20 points, but I don't know how good of a game this is going to be. Just if the Rams win, just be happy. It doesn't matter how it comes out because it might be an ugly game.
Yeah, so we're the same again, and we both have the Rams getting 20 points. But yeah, John Wolford has some mobility, and just to stir the pot here, if John Wolford wins a game and he's getting 24 points or something, controversy?
I mean, we've been seeing it around the league this year with guys
Oh
like
man,
Taylor Heineke and who else did we see that came in and did pretty well? Our guy Sappy.
Zappy, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind
So
of wanted to see more of a Bryce Perkins. Like I was talking to somebody, we gotta get going, but I was talking to somebody in the locker room. I was like, why don't you just run the whole preseason format with Bryce Perkins and that's McCutcheon? Might as well, the way this team has been looking. So, but yes, we'll see how the Rams do. Victor, anything you want to promote before we leave? Because I'm guessing you're gonna ask me to promote some of my stories, right?
exactly. Well, I mean, check out Compas on the Beat. We had some cool stuff on there for you guys. If you just like you like entertainment stuff, we got some Leo DiCaprio poll that's coming out either tonight or tomorrow morning. What's your favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movie since he's turning 48 on Friday? We have a lot of stuff on there for you guys. If you just like the NFL, we go over the whole NFL on there. We have some hot takes from Gilberto here, where he picked the AFC East as the best division in football. So
I
that
did.
was yeah, which I agree with. I think they have it's the in terms of record, they're the best division in football this year. So you have that, and then you have Combat Compas. There's some stuff coming on that. So tune into that. And then of course, like he always says, if you have any Chargers on your fantasy team, go and check out the guys over at What's Up Both with Fernando Ramirez and Dan and Dago.
Yeah, a lot going on here on the Compass on the Beat network. You're seeing right here on the bottom where it says Compass on the Beat. You're wondering what that is. That's the name of the network. It's not just House of Horns. We have Compass on the Beat, the actual flagship program. Sounds kind of cool to say.
Yep.
And then Combat Compass or boxing, MMA, wrestling show, and then obviously What's Up Boats. So lots going on here. And but I'm a writer. If you didn't know. I cover the Rams for the LA Daily News, Orange County Register, Southern California News Group. So any of those websites or newspapers, you can find my stories there, or just follow me on Twitter at gmanzano24. I link all the stories, or I try to, or do a retweet. And I have like a list of stories I try to work on every week, and then like it just goes all to waste because injuries happen and news happens. So today I wrote about Matthew Stafford. You want to know more details about John Wolford and how he's preparing for this? Check that out, the OC Register. Eventually, I want to do a story about Sean McVay going through some adversity as a play caller, being questioned, having some rough patches. How can he fix it? How does he look in the mirror? How does he respond to looking in the mirror? And then obviously what we talked about, just being accountable. I think people are talking about the Jalen Ramsey thing is like I think people are taking that out of context, and I think the locker room likes this kind of being held accountable approach, but I kind of like it. It's okay to talk and keep it real. So that could be a story, and then also it sounds like the same story every single week. How do you fix a running game? I'll try to do a deeper dive on that. Maybe talk to some linemen, blocking receivers, all that, tight ends, just to kind of see. But obviously things could change throughout the week. Um, and there was something else, by the way. Uh, this could have been in the beginning, but one story I saw because I want people to read the stories in the newspaper. How about that person winning that lotto ticket for $2 billion next to a gas station that I lived at for like nearly a decade? I could have been rich, Victor. Yeah. Sometimes I want to call you Fernando. I'm sorry, Victor. I'm COMPAS
No, I
now.
know. Hey.
But yes, if I had $2 billion, I would give you some money. You wouldn't care what I call you, right? But that's crazy
No.
to me.
Yeah, by the way, you have a cool hat, man. You want to show it off?
Actually, yeah, that is part
Check
of
it
the
out.
brand. I won't take off my hat because my hair is pretty messed up, but eventually we'll do some merch here. And I think we got this to almost to an hour here. So yes,
Yep. I
I
gotta go.
rambled at the end. Hopefully you like the show. Keep engaging, comment, check us out for the post game show. It's Rams against the Cardinals round 2, and I'll try to be on time this time.
All right, get us out of here, man.
On that note, ya nos vamos, pues vámonos.